Hello, Canucks fans, and welcome back to another episode of Canucks Conversation. My name is David Quadrelli, my co-host, back in the saddle where he belongs, Harman Dial. Harman, let's start there. Your time on the road. How nice is it to be back home?
It's perfect, right in time for the holidays. I'm just glad that I wasn't a jinx for the team. Again, last couple of long road trips that I've been on have just been disastrous for the team. So, you know what? It was finally nice to have a change of pace where they performed well on this trip. And especially when there's less media around, you just get to, I guess, gauge the vibe of the team a bit better. And, it was really cool seeing after the Nashville game, for instance, just how much it seems like the mood and the atmosphere and the vibes have changed around this team, because I can so vividly remember about 13 months ago when the vibes were terrible. It just sort of felt like years and years of failure, dysfunction, and disappointment was weighing down on these players, especially the core guys, and it just feels like all that weight has been lifted recently. So I just enjoyed hanging out on a road trip and covering these games and being in an environment where Canucks hockey is actually fun again.
And I want to talk to you about that vibe because obviously they were very positive, but I think it was Murph that tweeted it out last night that the players were very frustrated after last night's game. And I think this is something that Talkie even spoke about post game. Was that, yeah, it's good that the players are upset, but he was the one kind of giving them some credit for their performance last night in Dallas. 6 of a possible 8 on the road trip. How would you describe the vibe on the trip? And last night, especially, like, how was it last night? What was it like after that loss?
Yeah, the overall vibe is definitely positive. You can see that players feel closer together. The mood's a lot lighter. I mean, just walking into the game, or walking into the locker room after the Nashville victory, it was really cool just sort of seeing um, wide smiles, everybody sort of singing along to an A$AP Rocky song. And it was just like, I've never really seen this before. Of course, what I also liked was that it wasn't a case of them riding that high for too long. It was a very quick, like, okay, now let's pack our bags, let's do our recovery. We're going to Dallas next game. It mellowed down really quickly, which speaks to how Taka doesn't want them to get too high after victories, too complacent. So I definitely like to see that. And then I also thought it was interesting. Yeah, Murph was bang on. The players were really frustrated after that Dallas performance, which I almost like that they're holding themselves to a much higher standard now, because I'm sure they looked at it as a game where top Western Conference team and a top Western Conference team. I mean, in terms of like contender on paper, I'm not saying Dallas standings wise right now is near the top, because obviously that's Vancouver's spot right now. But Canucks knew the type of team they were playing and holding the lead late in a game. Like, they really wanted to close that out, and especially with the way overtime went, not being able to finish some of those chances and then letting one up. Again, I think this team just sort of now feels like it's at the point where, I mean, even early in the season when Tocchet brought up when they were playing 500 hockey and specifically noted some bad habits, and was like, oh, that's 500 hockey in a negative way. And remember, we were joking that 500 hockey used to be not so bad back in the day. So I think it just goes to show you that the bar is much higher, and that these players expect on a night in, night out basis to legitimately contend with teams like Dallas.
Yeah, and I mean the bar used to be playing 500 hockey. Like how often did you and I have the joke of meaningful games in November? That's all we're looking for is meaningful games in November, because recently it was the Canucks tanking their season in the month of October. We're gonna break down the game in Dallas a little bit further, but before we do that, I need to tell you about our presenting sponsor, HSBC Sevens. For 3 full days from February 23rd to 25th, BC Place is going to be the place to be. And that's because for the 9th time, HSBC World Rugby Sevens is coming to Vancouver. Enjoy a next level rugby experience with VIP tickets from just $130 a day, giving you the best seats in the house, player access, private bar and lounge access, and in-seat food and beverage service. HSBC Vancouver Sevens, where high caliber rugby and the ultimate party weekend collide. We're going to be checking out HSBC Sevens rugby later in February. Before that, Christmas. I got my my Santa hat on with the sequins on the hat. I got my red shirt on. I'm feeling it. I talked about this yesterday, Harm. I won't repeat it because all the listeners have heard it. But man, I am in the Christmas spirit. I am ready to go. I am so ready for Christmas.
Yeah, I also saw your the classic Canucks draft pick stick pose with Victoria at the Canucks skate at Rogers Arena for media. So that was seeing the shot too. I know it's a bit different from Christmas stuff we were talking about, but I just got to say I absolutely love that. I wish I was there, but it was on the road.
Yeah, it was too bad you couldn't make it to that media skate because we had a lot of fun. And I talked about that yesterday too, about how I shot a puck like that was my first time ever shooting a puck on ice. Like I've shot pucks in the backyard, in the driveway, whatnot, but like on ice, on skates, that was my first time shooting. And I'm a right-handed shot, but they only had left-handed sticks. I was using a Anthony Beauvillier stick was all that was around, and like Travis Dermott was kicking around too. So I used those two guys' sticks because they were pretty similar in my height. So those sticks, they worked out well for me. But yeah, I had to do the classic draft day stick point photo for Wyatt. He needed to see that. So I did that. Also, we should mention Wyatt not joining us today on this episode. We thought it'd be a little more fitting to have Dave Hall on the show. Canucks Army's prospect guru will join us to preview the World Junior Championship, which obviously kicks off on Boxing Day. Harm, I don't know about you, but I feel like I'm only gonna watch Team Sweden because that's where the Canucks prospects are at. I don't know. I watched Team Canada last year because of Connor Bedard, but this year I don't know. I don't think I'm gonna be watching Team Canada religiously. Like I'll watch it if it's on, but like I'll be going out of my way to watch Team Sweden this year, I think.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you got some talented Canucks prospects there, and you always want to see how they look in those sort of high pressure, high stakes situations. Not that it means a ton from an evaluation standpoint, because I still remember the World Juniors where Elias Pettersson was outplayed by Casey Middlestat, and you saw a bunch of people overreacting to that and saying, "Oh, Middlestat's going to be better than Pettersson," and we can see how those takes have aged. But it's just fun. It's the type of thing where you throw it on in the background while you're with friends and family. And for these prospects, it representing their country, it means a lot. It carries legitimate stakes, so it's always fun. And yeah, I think I'm with you. I'll watch Sweden, and I'll obviously watch the knockout games, but I don't think I'm going to be religiously following Canada as much as I did perhaps in years past.
Yeah, years past, it felt a little different. I don't know. And we'll see. We saw the hit from Macklin Celebrini today. We'll see what that results in, if there's any supplemental discipline. Wow, I'm just laboring through this to kick off this show. Before we keep going with the recap of last night's game, the OT loss in Dallas, I just want to quickly give a shout out to a few regular listeners in the chat and wish them a happy holidays, because man, we've got some great listeners and they are in our chat every single day. It feels like you got Lisa. Mama Lisa, of course, is an OG. She said great Santa hat quads, and I really like it. Jesse C said only 1 minute in and Harm is already a vibes guy. It's a Christmas miracle. And Andrew, commenting on what we spoke about earlier, I really like this from Andrew. He said the players should have been frustrated. So were the fans. I think that's a very valid take and goes back to what we said about the team kind of raising the bar. Captain Insano said he's glad he could make the live stream, loves Canucks conversation. It's a big part of his daily routine, he said. Thank you for listening, Captain Insano. We really appreciate it. Andrew Christensen, Jesse C, Jeremy Lee, Marcus Toe. Can't get to everybody. Karan's here. Yeah, a lot of great listeners in the chat. And of course, Logan Van Dyke, whose name I learned how to pronounce just this week. He taught me how to pronounce his name, which I really appreciate.
I'm not gonna lie, the first couple times you pronounced it, I was like, I don't think that's the right way, but
well, he did. Yeah, he did point out, he's like, yeah, that's not how you say my name. I'm like, okay, well, I fixed it. So yeah, I fixed it. Okay. Much appreciated, like I said, to everybody in the YouTube live chat spending their Friday right before the holidays with us here. Let's get to this game. The OT loss versus Dallas. We're not going to spend too much time on it because Dave Hall is going to join us in about 5 minutes time. So let's talk about this OT loss, Harm. 4-3 in overtime. Obviously, the Canucks lose, but they really hold their own. I think all game long they were in it. I don't think they were ever dominating. If anything, I think Dallas was kind of the team that was in the driver's seat for most of that game, but the fact that they got the number of goals that they did and that they had the lead in the dying minutes, I think that was a testament to what this team's been able to do, even on a night where they are getting outshot and maybe in some areas of the ice they are getting outplayed. I thought the Canucks had a really, really strong push in that game, especially in like the second and third periods. I just think there were moments where Dallas kind of pulled ahead a little bit too much in terms of possessing the puck. The power play wasn't able to really get set up for a lot of the night. There's a lot of different issues, but I think all in all, you have to be pretty happy with that performance if you're a Canucks fan.
Yeah, and you have to remember it was their fourth game in 6 nights, so you could tell that the energy, the legs weren't quite there, which Tocchet also talked about after the game. And it's that context that I think you have to view this game through, because this team's identity is really contingent on being able to pressure the puck all over the ice. It's that hard work on the forecheck. It's closing on players in the neutral zone and not giving up a lot there. It's winning battles along the wall. And all of those are really labor intensive, require tons of energy. And so on a night where understandably they didn't quite have those legs, they sort of had to lean on playing more of a smart, efficient game. And like you said, Dallas, I thought controlled the proceedings for most of the night. But for the Canucks to be able to hang around, I take that as a positive. And again, because of how the earlier parts of the road trip went, I mean, going into the game, all I was thinking was, if you can get a point out of it, that's a win in my books. Although, of course, look, blowing that lead is disappointing, and I understand why Canucks fans are upset. Not winning in overtime after that 2-0 breakaway chance that Pettersson and Joshua had is really frustrating too. But all in all, it's not a bad outcome, especially because this was a night where the Garland Joshua Blueger line again sort of took over. It just sort of seems like there's so many games where when the team when the rest of the team is flat, that line is able to just give them a spark, and that's what they did early. Before Joshua scored on that 2-on-1 in the first period with Garland, Blueger had that partial breakaway chance. Garland nearly tucked in a rebound. It's like that line single-handedly gave them that terrific start to keep them in the game for the rest of the contest when they perhaps didn't have the legs they usually did. So they deserve a lot of credit. And Demko held down the fort pretty well, even though there might have been, the odd goal that he might have wanted back.
I just need to get this out on Thatcher Demko. And I don't want to overanalyze this game. It was a hard fought game. But one thing I want to say for sure is that I noticed last night in the CanucksArmy comment section, some people pointing out that Thatcher Demko didn't look great in that game. I got to be honest here. I think that's baloney. And I think a big reason that people don't maybe notice Thatcher Demko playing well is because every save he makes is super unspectacular, even if it's a hard save to make. Like, the really, really hard saves, yeah, he makes the great save, but like, he makes hard saves, like saves where a lot of goaltenders would be flopping around and making these desperation saves. He's just anticipating well, and he's in position. And Harman, you did a really good job on the intermission on the intermission on the broadcast there, and you highlighted that kind of how Thatcher Demko makes the hard saves, and he makes them look really, really easy. And I think last night was a good example of it. So I think that might be something that you and I kind of go compile all the clips we can of Thatcher Demko making hard saves look very easy, and maybe even going a step further and finding, I don't know, like a guy like Yaroslav Askarov, who makes every save look like it's the hardest thing in the world, making the same save, but he's diving around, so he might get more accolades and end up on more highlight reels. Like, Demko makes the hard saves look easy, and I think that's why it might be why some fans start to think like, no, maybe he wasn't as good. Because yeah, he gets beat 5-hole twice last night, and like, he was in disbelief that he got beat on that OT goal, even though, look, that was a hard save to make. Thatcher Demko doesn't get beat 5-hole very often. You could tell he was very upset with himself that he let that one go in. Anyways, I just wanted to get that out there, and I needed to slip in a dig at Yaroslav Askarov as well, because that's what I do.
That's on brand.
Yes, it is. It's very on brand. Okay, anything else, Harman, or should we get to Dave?
Well, I'm sure we'll debate the 2-0 OT thing after.
Yes, let's get to it and anyone else. Let's save it for anyone else. I love it because I do have some thoughts on that. But before that, let's get to our prospect roundup, a presentation of our friends at Four Winds Brewing, family owned and operated in Delta, home to the Four Winds Light Lager, a crisp, clean, and easy drinking beer, a beer for everyone, a perfect beer for before, after, or during the game. Ask for Four Winds Light Lager at your local liquor store, or have some delivered right to your door through the online shop at fourwindsbrewing.ca. You're going to want some Four Winds while you are watching the World Juniors, and that's what we're about to talk about as we bring in our pal, our good friend over at Canucks Army, Dave Hall, our prospect guru. Dave, thank you for doing this.
Thanks for having me, guys. How you doing?
Good. It's good to chat with you. I have a lot of questions, so I'm just going to throw them all at you. Who's the favorite in this tournament? Like, I know nothing about the prospects this year. Who's the favorite in the tournament?
Well, yesterday we had a Sweden versus USA battle, and I have to admit those are probably the two that are favorites to win. After watching it, the first 40 minutes, or at least the first 20 minutes actually, was all Sweden. I was pretty quick to just be like, you know what, I think they might win gold. This might be the year after, disappointing bronze loss last year. But the last 20 minutes, the States looked unreal. One thing I will say, and this is just a hint to all the competitors at the World Juniors, do not take penalties against the States. It's both units are just cheat codes. So I think the States are going to be pretty good, but I think Sweden's a close second.
Dave, what should Canucks fans expect from their prospects playing for Sweden at these World Juniors in terms of where they slot into the lineup, potential role, as well as how much of an impact you're expecting them to make?
Yeah, I guess we're all kind of honorable Swedes at this point, eh? Like I heard you guys mention that it's going to be tough to watch Team Canada, which, I totally get that. But I mean, right off the bat, it's going to be Hanewinckel-USA. I don't think that's going to be a surprise to anyone. He was a little bit quiet in the Tuesday game. I was a little surprised actually, but yesterday's game, he was buzzing the entire game. Him and his former teammate Noah Uslan were just so dynamic together, and they only combined for one goal, but it could have honestly been 5-10, to be honest. Like they were buzzing all game. And I think, there's obviously a lot of pressure for Hanewinckel-USA to perform in this one. He's a 19-year-old. He's been doing some great stuff in the SHL. So as much as we don't want to say don't take all the stock into a World Junior tournament, I do think this is an important tournament for him to kind of showcase what he's been working on at the SHL level. Whether it was myself or Chris Faber before me, we've been harping on his game, that it's kind of night and day from last year. And so it really has, and I'm kind of excited for him to hopefully grab the reins and kind of just showcase what he's been doing. So he's going to be, the number one guy. He has potential to be one of the top producers in this tournament. He's going to be top even strength, top unit power play in his usual spot there. So definitely he's the guy. Second of all, obviously, Tom Willander. It's going to be interesting with Tom Willander because I think it's going to be, I think there's, again, just like Hanewinckel-USA, I think there's going to be a lot of expectations as our first round pick, Benson or Willander. There's all these debates going on all the time. And I think there's going to be, I'm going to call it unrealistic expectation. I just, I think some people, especially with defensemen, if he's not getting the points, it's the end of the world. But from everything that we've seen in the two games that they've had, I don't expect him to be on the power play. He didn't see a sniff in the two games, and that's one game where Axel Sandin-Pellikka, who's their go-to guy, he wasn't in the lineup, and he still didn't get on the power play. So I don't think we're going to expect a ton of point production. There should be some 5-on-5 there, but in reality, I think a good tournament for him is just him showcasing what type of skater he is, showing off just how good of gap control he really does, and just overall, just the toolkit that he has, rather than just putting up points. I just have this fear that there's going to be this huge expectation for him to put points on the board, and I just don't think that's what he should be expected to do. He's an 18-year-old. But yeah, I think, hopefully he puts up a couple points, but I think he's just going to have just a solid tournament, to be honest. And then I think out of all three, I think although he's going to be the less utilized prospect, I think Elias Pettersson has the highest potential to actually surprise quite a few people. Only because he comes in, he's going to be playing shutdown minutes on the third pairing and penalty kill, and I just don't think a lot of people will have expectations for what he's going to do. But so far in his two games, he's actually looked really solid and just a really good two-way defenseman that doesn't really flash, but he's just a no-nonsense guy that just gets the job done. So I think he's actually going to surprise a couple people with what he can do.
Okay, so tempering expectations for Willander, but pretty high expectations for Jonathan Lekkerimäki. And that's the guy I wanted to ask you about, because you mentioned last year. Last year, we saw him as the 13th forward at times. Like he had a tough tournament last year. So what are those things that he's worked on? Like, what's going to make this year so much different than last year?
Well, I think number one is it's just health, right? He's feeling good. He's healthy. He's got his energy back, and he's ready to just produce. And he's also now he comes in with some good experience. He's got a full half year of SHL experience where he's not dominated, but he's looked really good. 10 goals and 16 points is nothing to scoff at for a 19-year-old. So he's got that. He's coming in with confidence. And the thing that I love about Sweden, as opposed to all the other teams, maybe USA because they have the development program, but these kids have just played together so much, and especially this group of forwards, a lot of them are 19, and they just have so much chemistry together that I just think Lekkerimäki, along with Noah Östlund and Liam Ogren, I just think that they're just going to come in and they just have something to prove this year, and I just think there's going to be a chip on his shoulder, and he's just come a long way, and I think health has a lot to do with it. So.
Not specifically pertaining to the World Juniors, but with Canucks prospects as a whole, just big picture, is there a prospect in your mind that Canucks fans aren't maybe talking enough about, that maybe deserves a little bit more praise, that's flying under the radar a little bit based on their development this season?
Yeah, Sawyer Minio. He's doing some really fun things in Seattle, and I will say that a lot of his production has been on the power play. Like, let's not sugarcoat it. He has half of his points on the power play on the top unit there, but he's just outside of top 10 in defensive points, and he just, like, to be honest, for third, like, I mean, obviously he's not giving you as much value in the third round as Hunter Brzustewicz maybe, but he's coming in as a third round pick, and he's actually looking pretty good. He's a really smooth skater. He's an all around defenseman that can play in all situations, and I just think they may have found something that actually is pretty interesting in the third round there.
Dave, first of all, I want to plug your work, because you've been doing the kind of preliminary stuff at Canucks Army, the preliminary games, which is great. And you're going to have the coverage for us all tournament long. So people listening to this and watching this on YouTube, make sure you go check out Canucks Army and you check out Dave Hall's author profile, because he's going to have a lot. We actually have, I put in the chat for listener questions, Dave. So we have a few questions from listeners to you. Okay. So I'm going to get to this one from Andrew Christensen, which also I'm interested in this. Who are the top two goalie prospects going into this tournament?
The top two goalie prospects, I would have to say Sweden's Havelid for sure. He's probably going to be. The goalies are so interesting in the World Juniors. I was actually just looking this up today with Team Canada, because I'm in a World Junior pool, and we're just kind of going through everything. And goalies are just that one situation, and specifically for Canada, I guess it just always seems to be this, like, who's going to be the goalie? And to be honest, the tournament starts in a couple of days, and we still don't know who the number one goalie is going to be. But I think at this point, Team Sweden's goalie is probably going to be, the number one guy to look at. I think Finland's, I'm blanking on his first name, but Koko, I believe he's going to get the bulk of the starts for Team Finland. Looks like you might know what I'm talking about. Oh, sorry. I thought
Nicholas Koko. Yeah.
Thank you. Kakko. Thank you. He's going to play all the games for Finland as well, so he's probably going to have a good workload. And then Trey Augustine, he's looked really good for Team USA. So I think those are the three to kind of basically the only ones solidified at this point to look at.
Yeah, it's interesting that you brought up Kakko, because he was one of the guys, every year for the draft, I kind of throw out which goalie prospects I think the Canucks will like. And again, I always pride myself on not actually having any info from Ian Clark, but I just throw out that I'm like, I think he likes these guys, and I've been right twice already. So I threw out Kakko last year, but he went in the second round. I think the Kraken, or maybe the Flyers. I can't remember who it was. I think it was the Kraken. Kraken? Yeah, okay, there you go. I think it was like late second round. I'm not sure. I thought he might be there for the Canucks in the third, fourth round, but he was not. They took him in the second round. So I find that interesting that you bring him up. And I'm actually, I don't know, I'm excited to see a prospect's development like that, like a goaltender especially. Yeah, I forgot about that name. I honestly didn't even know he was going to be at this tournament. I haven't done much reading yet.
It's just so tough with goalies because you just never know. Like we've had, like I said, Team Canada, this happens every single year where you think it's going to be someone, and then someone just comes out of the woodwork and just has this bang out tournament. And I don't know, goalies are so hard to predict in this one.
Yeah, Thomas Milic last year obviously was the big
There
win
you
from
go.
Coquitlam. Got to give him the shout out he deserves.
He's got world championships.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, we'll get to this last one for you, Dave, from another viewer, and then we'll let you go.
Sure.
Any under the radar draft eligible players to look out for?
I'm gonna hold off on that a little bit, only because it's a little bit early. Like back, I used to write for Dauber, and I used to be all in the the under the rate these kind of guys. But just because I've been so focused on the Canucks prospects and just getting everything going, I don't want to say out a name that I haven't been too familiar with. I start to look at some of those under the radar guys pretty much now as we kind of get closer to the draft. So I wouldn't want to throw out a name and just act like I know what I'm talking about.
I almost feel like the World Juniors is a chance to find those under the radar guys. Like it's literally like, yeah, okay, this guy was playing on a third line, or he was playing with a guy who we thought was going to be really good. And like, let's be honest, like that's how amateur scouts in the NHL sometimes find guys. They're like, well, he played with our first round pick, and we really liked what he did with him, so we'll take him in the 6th, 7th round. I wonder if there's going to be a guy that emerges like that, because basically there is every year basically for you, right?
Yeah, exactly. And you bring up a good point. I thank you for doing that. And that's pretty much what it is. Like at the World Juniors is kind of that moment where you take a look at the whole broad scope of things, and you take a look, and then from there you make notes. Okay, that's who I got to go in and watch, and then you kind of just go from there. But we just got to find that next Arvid Kosmar, right? And see how it goes.
The next Oli Levy.
There you go. And that's a great point, and you brought it up already before I came in. Like it's one of those tournaments where there's just so many expectations, but it's so important not to to just take it with a grain of salt, right? Like so many things can happen. Like I always bring Ovid Kosmer up because I remember that World Juniors. He was just like, he came out, he was a workhorse, he was a water bug, and everyone was just like, oh my God, including myself, a 7th round gem, and look how he turned out. So.
I love it. I love the Arvid Kosmar poll because Kosmar mania was a real thing. Like that was a real thing. People were like, we got another Christmas present.
Absolutely. The next Niels Hoglander.
That's right. There you go. Dave, thanks so much. And we'll be reading along, as I'm sure all of our listeners will as well, with all of your work at Canucks Army. Thanks so much for doing this, my friend, and happy holidays to you and yours.
Yeah, happy holidays. Merry Christmas, guys.
Yeah, Merry Christmas, Dave. And that was Dave Hall, who I already mentioned was brought to you by our friends at 4 Wins. Before we get to anyone else, it's Friday, which means I have to update everybody on my progression with the Wendy's Daily Face-Off Survivor Pool game. Before I do that, I'll tell you what I'm talking about. Wendy's is letting you win real food with your fantasy teams this year with the Wendy's Daily Face-Off Survivor Pool. For those of you who dream of smoking the competition, Wendy's is rewarding you with weekly prizes that will have you winning. But here's the big secret to lineups. It's all serendipitous, like Wendy's new limited edition chicken strips and French toast sticks. Sometimes the best teammates are the ones you'd least suspect. Sign up to play Daily Face-Off Survivor Pool to win weekly prizes like the new chicken strips and French toast sticks from Wendy's and the Wendy's app. I was out on Monday, folks. I think I already talked about this on Wednesday, but I'll just bring it up again. I was out on Monday. My Wagon Anaheim Ducks, I bet against them, and they hurt me. They hurt me bad, Harm. They hurt me.
I was going to say, on a Friday, there's no way you were updating the people on what happened as if you had made it through Thursday. I was like, that would have been a record high for you already. So I figured this has to be a callback to earlier in the week.
Major props to anybody that's able to win this game. I'm starting to think I might just not be one of those people because it's hard. It's hard to make the right pick. Like, I don't think there was anyone that won last week. I don't think anybody won the game last week. Like 0 people won the game, which is crazy. But we'll see. We'll see what happens.
I should sign up with an account and just pick the opposite of whatever you pick. and to see what
exactly.
outperforms.
I think starting next week, we should. And speaking of next week, let's quickly go over our holiday schedule, Harm, because we are not going to be doing any shows until next Thursday. So it's a little 5-day break, six-day break for us. We'll be back on the 28th to preview the Canucks' first game back after their holiday break between the Philadelphia Flyers and your Vancouver Canucks. We'll be back on the 28th. We'll be back on the 29th, and then the 2nd. We're going to obviously skip New Year's Day. No show on New Year's Day, but we'll be back on the 2nd, and we'll have some good shows after a nice little holiday break here. But before that, the Canucks play the San Jose Sharks tomorrow. I don't even want to preview the game, Harman, because I'm thinking to myself, like, the vibes are good around this team right now. Yeah, they've played a lot of games, but they're not going to lose to the San Jose Sharks, are they? Heading into the break, there's no way.
I mean, you're the vibes guy. You should know.
I think the vibes are too good, like, not to. And I just... Look, I feel bad. I would feel bad for anybody who... I don't think I'm going to the game tomorrow. Like, I wanted to go. We had this conversation yesterday. I think I'm sending Wyatt to that game because I really wanted to go because the reindeer games thing with the Canucks dogs is happening tomorrow. And I really wanted to go see it. But man, if they lose to the Sharks heading into the holiday break, I don't even know what the vibes are going to be. It's going to be... The narrative is going to be, this was a great time for a break for this team. Which it is. Look, they have played a lot of hockey lately, but I'm going with a win. That's what my vibes are telling me is it's going to be a win tomorrow against San Jose.
Yeah, I'll buy in on that.
I love it. All right, let's get to anyone else as we get set to close out this show, folks. It's time for Anyone Else, presented by DoorDash. It's our listeners' chance to get involved and hit us up in the YouTube live chat, and it's also our listeners' chance to get 25% off and 0 delivery fees on their first order of $15 or more when they enter the code NATION25. That's all capital letters, NATION, and the numbers 25. With restaurants, grocery, pharmacies, bakeries, flower shops, and more, DoorDash really has everything you need to make the holidays special. Once again, that promo code is NATION25 for 25% off and 0 delivery fees on your first order of $15 or more with the DoorDash app. Offer valid in Canada, subject to change. Terms do apply. Okay, this is one that was for Dave Hall, but we will answer it, Harm. It's from Jesse C., who said, so many publications use different ranking systems for prospects. So do you have a favorite or least favorite way to rank prospect tools? I don't know about prospect tools per se, but like I will say my number one resource is the Elite Prospects Draft Guide. Like I always go to that. And I have a lot of, I hate to say it without vomiting in my mouth, but I have a lot of respect for JD Burke and the work they're doing over there at Elite Prospects. He's got a fantastic team over there. And look, like Greg Ballack, that's the goalie guy over at Elite Prospects, or one of them at least. And I really have a lot of respect for Greg and his takes. Mostly because I think a lot of times they go against what JD thinks about goalies, because JD does not know goalies. I'll just say that. I just give him a pat on the back. I just got to say, guy was telling Yaroslav Askarov, second mention of him on the show. I was texting JD about Askarov today because I was banging the drum for a long time that Askarov was not as good as everybody thought. But anyways, I digress.
Yeah, I'd say for me, I don't lean on all-in-one type model necessarily. I try and use a combination of production, especially relative to historical peers, and trying to find statistical comparables. And then I pair that with just having conversations with scouts who are in the game, and the public work of the likes of Scott Wheeler, JD Burke, all these public analysts that I sort of trust. But before we move on, I think we got to debate the 2-on-0 breakaway.
Yes.
So I want to hear your take first.
Okay, so I don't know which way you want to go with this, but I think I know. So I was watching that, and first of all, I know Dakota Joshua had a big game. I know he scored his 8th goal of the year. But you can't have him out on 3-on-3 OT, right? Like I don't know if that's the direction you're going, but basically what I'm saying is, first of all, it's a 2-on-0. You have to convert. Everybody's saying, oh, Pettersson was so slow. Pettersson didn't score. Dude was out there for like a minute and 30 seconds at that point. So he'd been out there for a while. He probably had no gas left in the tank. But I just thought that Scott Wedgwood in net. And like my grandmother might have been able to stop that chance. And not because Elise Pettersson's shot was bad, but because I just thought Dakota Joshua telegraphed it the whole way exactly what they were going to do. Like I thought it just gave Wedgwood way too much time to know exactly what was going to happen. Like if Joshua doesn't have his hips completely turned to Pettersson, he could like do a little shoulder shimmy and get Wedgwood to maybe drop down, and then it's a tap in for Elias Pettersson. But like as soon as he got the puck, he immediately gave it back to Pettersson, and by that point, I just thought that there was no chance for Pettersson to really do much with it. I don't know. I was thinking to myself, like, okay, if that was Niels Höglander, if that was Connor Garland, just some names that I was thinking of. Ilya Mikheyev, even. I don't know about Mikheyev, but I don't know, man. I don't know. That was my take. Was I don't think it should have been Joshua out there, but Jesse C also making a good point that I think Elias Pettersson passed it a little too soon on that play on the 2-on-0 as well. So it's not all Dakota Joshua's fault. I just thought he passed it a little too soon. But then he, I thought Joshua just telegraphed what the play was going to be way too soon and way too easily. Like Wedgwood was able to read that play way too easily.
I think the scoring chance, you're right, was not executed by the duo together well at all. But I was just going to push back at the idea that I actually think, based off vibes, this is vibes, that Joshua actually, I didn't hate the coaching staff using him in the 3-on-3 OT just because he'd been having a monster game. He's been rolling recently. And when you have a hot hand like that, I didn't mind it at all. And I'll say this too. The only reason they had a 2-on-0 in the first place is because Joshua made an excellent defensive play. There's no 2-on-0 rush if that's Niels Höglander or Connor Garland, just because he used all of his length.
That's a great point.
To anticipate that play and break the play up and create that 2-on-0 in the first place. And so if you're in a 2-on-0 situation, you've already, I think, done well. Yes, the pass was not the best decision there. But I also think Pettersson still had enough room. He didn't have a lot, but he still had enough room to cut across and go to his backhand. I think he legitimately just saw, because I was watching the playback, he saw a little hole and thought he could go 5-hole. And I think that was just a bad decision where the right move would have been cut across, try and go to your backhand.
So I was making jokes, and Grady has a chime in for us, but I want to quickly say this. I was making jokes last night so the Canucks media skate, I mentioned that was my first time shooting a puck. So I was making fun of the people that are like, I played the game, I know. So I was like, actually, that was a hard play. I know that because I've now played the game. Anyways, Grady, what do you have for us?
Well, I just wanted to throw it out there. Like, you had two left shots going down together who probably have never practiced line rushes before. So there's an unfamiliarity component there as well. I thought Pettersson should either try to go high on Wedgwood or go back to the far side, because goalie sliding across, you kind of shoot against the grain that he was coming from. And I just thought Joshua was still a little too far out, and he didn't really get Wedgwood to bite and allowed Wedgwood to stay square, as opposed to kind of try to get him to either go down or bite on the shot and then, either throw it back across. But yeah, I think it just boiled down to, two guys that have probably never played together. Well, they haven't, and nor have they practiced something like that. And 2-on-0 heat of the moment, like, that's a tough play to complete, especially when you have two guys shooting the same way. If Joshua was a right-hand shot, I imagine Petey probably would have thrown that back over a little earlier.
Alternatively, it's hard to lift the puck off the ice, so let's cut Elias Pettersson some slack. I've played the game, so I'm just joking. Grady, can we bring on Tilly?
She's sleeping right now. She's sleeping right now.
Okay. So
we will on our next show.
We talked about it yesterday.
Yeah.
We talked about it yesterday that Grady's got a puppy, and people want puppies on this show. And I mean, I could go get Bert, but I don't want to interrupt the show to go get him from his sleeping quarters that he's in right now. Yeah, we'll have the dogs. We'll have the dogs on the show at some point. Okay. Do we have anything else here? Because there was one more that I saw. Yeah, this one from Andrew. Andrew Christensen asked, Kuzmenko back in the lineup against the Sharks? I think yes, Harman. Yeah. He has to get back in the lineup. If he doesn't get back in the lineup against the Sharks, he's never getting back in the lineup.
I literally, and then the other point I wanted to make in relation to that is DiGiuseppe now is 13 games without a point. And you look at the numbers the other night in the Dallas game, Canucks were outshot 9-0 with DiGiuseppe on the ice. So we're just not seeing the same level of energy, effectiveness on the forecheck. Early in the season, it felt like he was making so many impressive plays as the first man in on the forecheck. And now, for whatever reason, I don't know if it's a case of early in the season, he's got this cushy role and there's a lot of adrenaline going. I don't know if it's just difficult to sustain that type of high energy play style because of the schedule they've had, or whether it's just a case of sometimes when you have quad A players, they outperform for a little stretch and then they sort of come back down to earth. But whatever the case is, PDG should be the one to come out of the lineup.
Yeah. I threw out Sam Lafferty, but I thought Sam Lafferty had a better game last night, so I don't know if it's him. I think it probably is PDG. And Harman, I'm not sure if you read it, but Cody Sievertson had a really interesting piece where he just looked at the NHL hustle numbers and it from NHL Edge of PDG and Kuzmenko, and it really came down to the fact that Kuzmenko just hasn't moved his feet this season, and PDG has, and he's one of the Canucks' best forecheckers. So it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see what they do tomorrow night. But yes, we are thinking it is going to be a win tomorrow. And I'm getting word that Bert is coming in because my girlfriend's home and she heard me talking and she texted me and said, I'm going to bring Bert in. So I think Bert is going to make an appearance on the show. And Grady in our private chat here said Tilly, which is short for Matilda, is also coming on the show. You bring Tilly on because Bert's just outside. He's getting ready. Oh my gosh.
He's a little sleepy right now.
Oh my goodness.
Everyone say hi to Tilly.
Look at this puppy. Oh my gosh.
You guys like the ears?
He is adorable. I got Bert coming in. Bert, come here, buddy. Hi.
Dual puppy cams.
Hi, Bert.
Say hi. Say hi to the YouTube crowd.
Hi.
You're a YouTube star now. Oh.
Hi. Hi.
Microphone a kiss, Bert.
Oh, hi.
Where's
We'll clip
my
this,
kiss,
Grady.
Tilly?
Grady,
Where's my-
the clips of dogs in my experience, because we brought Bert on when Bert was a baby. He came. Bert hasn't been on the show in a while, but when he was a baby, Harman, don't you have a dog?
I do.
Go get her. We need all 3 dogs. Harman, what's your dog's name? I don't even know your dog's name.
Okay, 1 second. Cash.
That's a good
Oh,
name.
big yawn.
Hey, buddy.
Oh, big yawn from Bert.
Oh, double yawn. That was almost synced.
Hi.
Cash.
The chat is loving this. Yeah, it's
He's
Christmas.
a big
folks.
boy, though.
Yeah, bring him up to your lap, Harman.
I can't. It's physically impossible.
Oh man. Yeah, it's almost Christmas, folks. So this is the part of the show where we just bring our dogs on the show, and yeah, Bert's gonna close us out here. Oh, we still have to get to Betway, Grady. I just realized that. We'll do that eventually. Oh, Bert wants belly rubs. Wow, he just leaned back.
I can't pick him up, but he just went under the table.
There you go. So he's here. He's here in spirit. Okay, I think it's time for you to go, buddy. I think we need to do our Betway bet.
Tilly's whining. She needs to go back to her now.
Okay,
We
Bert, you go
messed
back
up
to
the
bed
game.
too, buddy.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. All right. Thanks for coming, Bert. Okay, let's get to it. Let's get to our Betway bet of the day. All right. Bringing it back into serious mode here, folks. Our Betway bet of the day brought to you by our friends, of course, over at Betway. There it is. I found it. They got some World Junior props, and we are picking one today. Jonathan Lekarmaki, Canucks prospect, of course, to be the top goal scorer at the World Junior Championships. Look, he's among the favorites, folks. I think he had the 4th best odds last I checked. Carter Gauthier is the favorite right now, 14 Canada at plus 600, but you can get Jonathan Lekarmaki at plus 1,000 odds, which means a $10 bet will return you $110 over on Betway. Must be 19 plus play. If you choose to play, please play responsibly. Harman, what breed is your dog?
A Cane Corso.
Oh man, I didn't know that. Those are gorgeous dogs. They are. Yeah, you might have not even been able to hold him up when he was a puppy because those things are massive.
Yeah, I mean he's not the size. Like some of them are tanks. He's definitely the skinnier size. Yeah, he's definitely skinnier, but yeah, he's adorable.
He's a tank. You can't bring him up. You can't bring him up.
No, no chance.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, This was a fun show, gentlemen. Thank you so much. Harman, thanks for doing it. I know you had a big travel day, and obviously you're a little bit tired from the road, as we all would be after that travel schedule. So thanks so much for joining us, man. Really appreciate you making time to come co-host with me today.
Of course, boys. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Happy holidays to all of our listeners, to you, Harman, to you, Grady, as well, and Tilly, and Bert. And what's your dog's name, Harm? Cash. That's right. Cash. And to Cash, of course. So for my co-host Harman Dial, our technical producer Grady Sass, and all of our dogs here at Canucks Conversation, my name is David Gugelli. Thank you so much, folks, for listening to another episode of the Canucks Conversation.
Canucks Conversation with Harman and Quads every weekday at 2 p.m. Be sure to check it out on the Canucks Army YouTube channel. And if you missed it, go check it out on your favorite podcast catcher app.